We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
Visit MTE.com.
Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers
since 1947.
The WGNS Action Line. Now, your host, Scott Walker.
This morning, we have got a political forum on the air. With us in studio are those running for Rutherford County Mayor. And this morning, we have incumbent Mayor Joe Carr, County Commissioner Craig Harris, and then we also have Randy Allen with us today. Again, all running for County Mayor. So whenever a question's asked, just kind of dive into it. Whoever wants to answer it first, just go for it. And if you have something to kind of add to it or come back with, just jump in, because there's only 3 of you here. You know, we've had forums in the past where there were like 10 people in the room or something crazy like that. It's just too much, you know?
10 people. Holy cow.
I know. So, Craig, you're at mic 1. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm County Commissioner Craig Harris. I've been Commissioner for 8 years and Chairman of Steering for 8 years. And I've been here in Rutherford County for a long time, and I care deeply about Rutherford County, and I had a business here, raised my children here, and you know, I'm looking forward to running for mayor. And one of the things I want to do is I'm a CEO, and I take the business approach in everything I do. So I want to make sure that I am trying to do things in the business sense, as raising revenues, keeping expenses down, and making sure we got the quality services that we have. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do as mayor, and I'm going to continue to work with our organizations, I'm going to continue to work with our commission, have a relationship with them, in that relationship, and try to move forward. And I think that we can do that. I think we got a lot of momentum our way.
Joe Carr?
Yeah, so I've been your Rutherford County Mayor for almost 4 years. Prior to that, I was the TDEC Assistant Commissioner. Prior to that, I was Rutherford County State Representative from the 48th District. Proud to say I was the first Republican elected to that district since Reconstruction. So if you're a Republican, that's kind of a feather in all of our caps. I own 2 different engineering companies, been married for 43 years to my lovely wife, Jenny. I've got 3 children, Aaron, Maddie, and Joe Jr., and 2 grandchildren, Rucker and Colby. My family on my mom's side goes back 6 generations to the Rockville community. So we have old, long roots in Rutherford County. My father, real quick, was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. So when I was a young boy, before I got to high school, we lived all over the country and all over the world, stationed and restationed multiple times. He was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. But I can tell you, having been all over the world, traveled, visited, vacationed, lived, Rutherford County is absolutely the best place in the world to live. It's an honor and a privilege to serve here and to live here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about the mayor's race, Scott. So let's vote Joe Carr on May 5th. Randy
Allen here as well.
Hey, thank you for having us, Scott. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you and these other competitors. So I'm Randy Allen, and I've been here a long time as well. Grew up here. I no longer ask people, were you born here? I ask them if you were here before Nissan. Because that's, ran into a kid the other day, and he said, I just want things to go back to the way it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I'd go, yeah, it's okay. Been married to my wife for 34 years this year, Cynthia, and gone to school here. We've had businesses here. I've worked for the state government, Metro Nashville government. Currently, I'm the COO at Rutherford County Area Habitat for Humanity, working on affordable housing in our area. Mainly, you know, I'm in this race because the people of this community, like myself, are frustrated at some of the things that we are dealing with every day. They're simple things, but you know what? I walked outside my door this morning. First thing I smelled was something that almost made me want to go to the bathroom, and it's because we have the third largest landfill in our county. We've got traffic issues. We've got, you know, other things that we can focus on. But I'm telling you, that's a reminder every day of what's going on in our community. Lots of good stuff, but you know, when I talk to people, that's one of the first things that comes up. That traffic, the fact that our infrastructure and things like that need to be maintained at a higher level. thank you for having us.
And again, on the air with us this morning, those running for Rutherford County Mayor. And we have Craig Harris with us today, and then we have Joe Carr, who's the incumbent, and then also Randy Allen. And for those listening, feel free to text in any questions you may have. Just text it to 615-893-1450. And we already have quite a few questions being asked this morning. And the first one, with the county jail already overcrowded and projections showing continued population growth, would you support building a larger jail funded by taxpayers, or would you pursue alternatives that some might view as being soft on crime?
Well, let me jump in there and start that, because that's something that the mayor's office, along with the sheriff's department and members of the commission, have been working on for the last couple of years. We formed a jail study group to study the idea of the need. In other words, what was the current condition of the existing jail with regard to being in a seriously rapid rate of decline and deterioration. The jail has actually sunk on its foundation about a foot, so we had some serious structural problems over there. The footprint of the jail doesn't allow us to expand, and so we have in addition, we have a serious overcrowding issue. The jail was originally designed for 400. We expanded that a little bit by putting double bunks in each cell, which got us to about 800. Our average capacity on a daily basis is about 1,050. The latest research suggests that you can build a new jail at about $250,000 per cell. So if we have if we build a 1,500 jail facility, that's about $300 to $340 million. Talking with the finance director, Michael Smith, looking at how we retire our bonds, we believe with confidence, given the current economic conditions, that we can fund a new detention facility, a $300 to $340 million detention facility, in about 2 years, go to bond in about 2 to 3 years without raising property taxes. So all of this idea of having a new facility is to deal with the issue of overcrowding that we do not want the federal judges getting involved in. It becomes quite more expensive after that if they do get involved. Yet we strongly believe, and things could change, but at this point in time, the county can build a $300 to $340 million adult detention facility without raising property taxes. And that's our goal. We've just started the journey. We're just now programming the facility. So no determination has been made about whether we build a new jail or we renovate the old jail. That's going to be decided after the programming phase, which should be completed in October.
That was Joe Carr. Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, right now the only thing we know about how much the county jail costs is $650,000, because that's what we paid for a study, which will tell us exactly what we need to do and how much it's going to cost. And there's so many variables and factors that go into this, because we got to find a place to put it. We got land. You got to look at the interest rates going up. And as far as trying to get something that's tax-free, I agree that we have ways and mechanisms in our finance to do something, but we have a school that we got to build. We got Stewart's Creek that's completely overcrowded right now. So you're talking about, I don't want to say how much I think a jail costs, because we don't know. I mean, it could be $250, it could be $500. I mean, we don't know that right yet, but we know a school is going to cost us $100 to $150 million. So it's going to drastically affect us and affect the citizens. So I look at other options. I want every single option looked at, whether it's private. And I'm not saying I'm for that or advocating for that at all, but I'd like to see every single option on the table so that every taxpayer sees what we're looking at. As mayor, one of the things is, transparency. I've been preaching that for, since I started. And I want the taxpayers to see exactly what's going on and see what options we have. Because, you're talking about a tremendous amount. Right now we have $500 million in debt. And you're talking about almost doubling it with a school and a jail. So that's pretty significant financial impact. So, yeah, I want to make sure, we got $650,000 out there, and let's wait on that report. And when that comes in, I think it should be in anywhere between 3 to 4 months, and then we'll be able to look at this more.
I think just to add to this, so you just heard there's been a 2-year study. There's $650,000 that's been spent on this. Current jail is at capacity as far as admin and inmates. The From what I understand, the elevator, they can no longer get parts. It's built in a floodplain. I mean, there's so many things, but we don't need to get ahead of this next few months where we will have a new sheriff, and that new sheriff is going to have a lot of input into the decisions that are made. And I think there's a lot of ways that when you start talking to them about, hey, we've got state inmates, we need to be moving those on as quick as possible. I hear people talk about, we've got such a great workhouse. Why aren't we transferring more prisoners over to that? Why aren't we working with our surrounding counties? Davidson County's fixing to build a massive jail. Do we need another supermax prison in our county? I just don't think so. And I don't think that the people that are in our community that are funding the capital projects that we've got in the works or that are looking ahead, I don't think they see the value in us becoming a larger facility. But we're not going to be soft on crime. We're going to figure out a way to help these inmates as they come out of their sentences to go through recovery, job prep, all of the things that make them good citizens in our community. So we're going to decrease recidivism, and that's got to be our main goal. Housing is something we're going to have to figure it out.
And again, that was Randy Allen, and just before him was Craig Harris. Another question here. Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing counties, of course, in Tennessee. What's your long-term plan to manage that growth without sacrificing quality of life?
Well, the problem that we're having right now is our infrastructure is behind, and we're growing. We're growing 700 people a month. And so we have got to get our infrastructure. And, we have, I know, at least 2 or 3 subdivisions, which is anywhere between 150 to 300 homes that is getting ready to go in. And we don't have roads where 2 buses can pass each other. And that's one of the things that I want to look at. Now, for us to keep our quality of life and for us to maintain what we're doing, we had to raise revenue. And that's a problem that we're having right now is we don't have any alternative revenues except what we get from the state in property tax. So that's something that I've been working on. And, CEO, I've done this my whole life. As commissioner, I brought in over $7 million with help of our commissioners in additional revenue. And that's something that I'm not promising. I've already been doing it, and I'm going to continue to do that. But growth, you can either work with it or you can fight it, and I want to work with it. And it's easy to talk about building roads. That's a lot of money. We had the ability to do that, but we also had to ask our developers to step up and do it as well. So we had to work together and try to alleviate this problem, because a lot of people, I think most of the people are very frustrated with traffic. And I get frustrated with it. It's tough for me. I live in the north side, we're by the airport, and then to come over here to the Ag Center, it took me like 25, 30 minutes, and that's ridiculous. So I want to make sure that we start having the infrastructure in place and start working on that, and we got to find a way to pay for it, and that's one of the ways that I'll do it is by getting additional revenue.
All right. Anybody else want to dive into that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of frustration out there around growth. And I also know that sometimes when you're making decisions, it's good to have some people around the table that have outside the box thinking, business leaders, things like that. I don't think that we're limited necessarily as far as revenue goes by just what the taxpayer or the resident of Rutherford County can afford. I think there's a lot of private entities, public-private partnerships out there that we can work with other businesses to bring revenue here, better jobs. We can expand our tax base, and that's what I intend to do, is open the door to every and all ideas from the best and the brightest in our community. And we're going to make sure that we do what's best for us, not just today, but 10 years from today. So that's my plan. I think long-term planning, being proactive, has got to be where we go.
I think there's no question the number one challenge for this county, the 42nd fastest growing county in the nation, the fastest growing county in the state, and has been for a long time, is how does our infrastructure keep up with the growth? And how does that growth then look like the community we want to be? I appreciate Commissioner Harris's comment about needing to find new revenue sources, because That's certainly a challenge. I don't agree with it because it's tantamount to raising taxes or finding new taxes. I think the tax burden on the citizenry and on our businesses is strong enough, and it's only in the most dire of circumstances that we would need to raise property taxes. As an example, when I came into office, I inherited from the previous commission a record $64 million budgeted deficit. That was a budgeted deficit. The year before, it was $34 million, another record. Before that, it was $32 million. And before that, it was $29 million. All 4 years prior to my being mayor, we had record budgeted deficits. And that's money we put on a credit card because we didn't want to pay for it. So we punted it to September 1, 2022. And in the following budget, we unfortunately had to raise property taxes because of the budgeted deficit spending of the previous commissions. Having said that, I think it's very important that the listeners understand that, from my point of view, there are only 2 occasions where you need to raise property taxes. The first is if you have a significant capital project like a school that requires it. It's absolutely mandated by state and necessary. Number 2, what do you do, and I want to ask Mr. Allen this question specifically, what do you do when the cost of inflation creeps up on the county such that we have our insurance premiums for this coming year are going to go up 20 to 30%. Our pension fund is going up over 13%. We have the same inflationary costs as any other business, and yet every other business gets to do what? They get to raise their prices. Now, I'm not advocating a property tax increase. I'm not advocating new taxes or new fees. But I think structurally that is something that all the candidates, and especially the listeners, need to understand. There, unfortunately, are rare times that we need to raise taxes.
And I think there is, to answer your question, I think there are times when, you get to a point where in regular day-to-day operations, your business, as the leader of that business, you have to go out and look and renegotiate. You have to sit down at the table with your providers and say, look, this is what we've got. I mean, we've got people moving here that want to be here. There are opportunities to bring in not only better businesses, not only better jobs, but better providers into our service area. So that's one of the things I would seek is, hey, let's get out and renegotiate some of our stuff and see if maybe that's an option.
And that's a great idea. And I will say this to wrap this question up, just so the listeners know, 75% of the county's budget, and Commissioner Harris knows this, is in our school.
Yeah, schools.
We don't get to change that. By statute, we cannot reduce our maintenance of effort by law. Then this county is also required by statute to have a jail, and not a supermax prison.
You're right.
A jail. They're very, very different. And just as an aside, the county does not have state inmates unless they're from Rutherford County. So we do not have the luxury, unless the state lets us, to move prisoners out. But the fact of the matter is we by statute have to have a jail. Not the city of Murfreesboro, not the city of Smyrna, the Rutherford County. By statute, we have to have a solid waste department. So by statute, we have to have all these departments that require funding. So we're extremely limited in what we can negotiate or renegotiate as it relates to those kinds of expenditures to our budget.
Yeah, and that's why we had to be extremely careful of emotional building. I've said this from the start. Mayor Carr said something about, revenues being taxed and all that. And I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. I've been working on real estate transfer fee for 5 years. And everybody thinks that's a tax. It's not a tax. It simply means that we want more of a portion of the real estate transfer fee. And they give us right now 2%. And that's ridiculous. And we're generating that here in Rutherford County, and we're asking for 50% which of that they bring in. So you're looking at $10 million recurring a year. We had a bill that, and actually they're voting on that this week. So hopefully that'll get done, but then it's still got to get funded. So it's still an uphill battle. But they tried to get a tax cap. This went through the House, and it got killed at the Senate. But it was like putting a cap of 3% on us with the ability to raise property taxes. And like Mayor Carr said, there's inflation. Inflation's around 2.8 to 3.1, percent every year. Well, I talked to the leaders in the state leaders and our state delegation, and to do something like that, they are opened up their mind as far as giving us a chance to change some of the things, such as getting a bigger portion of the sales tax. That would generate millions. And here's one that I find just absolutely unbelievable is the gas tax. And the gas tax is based on population, land mass, and then equal share. So Wayne County, which I think has 16,000 people, but they're bigger than us, land mass, and they're getting equal share, they're getting actually more money than us, and we have over 150 miles of paved road than they do. It doesn't make sense. And that's one of the things that I talked to him about is maybe reformulating that. And then people say, oh, I don't know. Well, we did that with education. We went from the BPA to the TISA, and got more money. We changed that entire formula, which helps large growth counties as ourselves. So I just, I think, and I think Joe was in the state house, and a lot of the bills kind of help the rural areas. And I mean, it's been like that. And we're growing so fast. We need, as much revenue as we can get. And those are things that we can work on. Those are things that's a chance for us to achieve. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
And I also just wanted to add to what Craig said. A lot of our growth around here and a lot of things people are frustrated about are not homegrown issues. We are actually... there's a lot of pass-through traffic that comes in and uses our infrastructure every day, but they don't stop for gas. They don't stop to eat here. We don't get any of their sales tax revenue because they're going to their destination and spending their money, or they're coming from the destination where they spend their money. So when we look at what's going on here with our infrastructure, we have to think, again, outside the box about how do we capture some of that revenue that's just passing through here every day. So the residents shouldn't have to take care of those problems as well.
Yeah, and that's a big reason to reformulate the gas tax. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that is possible. I mean, there's so many people trying to do up there at the state, and it affects us. There's a lot of bills that affect this county, and we had to stay on front of that. We had to stay in front of it. We had to stay, with our state delegation, have a good working relationship with them so that we can deal with these bills that are going through right now.
And again, this is a political forum, and you can feel free to text in any questions you may have at 615-893-1450. Those running for mayor are joining us in studio. We have Randy Allen, Craig Harris, and also Joe Carr. Some of the best questions are asked from a place of, emotion, and you can tell the questions that are written that way. And this person says,
incoming.
I'm a retired police officer, 40 years on the job in Miami, Florida, and I moved here because this is where my kids are and my grandkids are. But I moved here upon retiring, and I'm tired of hearing the answer, a COLA pay raise, or cost of living pay raise, I guess is what that is, for our first responders. And my son's a deputy, and he is an excellent deputy, but you refuse to give a pay raise specifically to our first responders like our sheriff's deputies. And I don't know
so the ins and outs of that statement. Craig, do you want to go on this one, or do you want me to go on this one? Because I will say, and let me just say this. I think this is something that Craig and I are going to agree on, because the caller's assumption, and I'm going to hand it to Craig here in just a second, the caller's assumption is incorrect. I will give credit to Mayor Ketron and Commissioner Harris and the commission before I came in. They gave first responders a 15 and a 20% pay raise the year before I became mayor. And is that not correct, Craig?
For those
20%.
listening,
yeah. And so,
who is the first? Tell us. Is that
fire,
Sheriff,
EMS,
fire?
and sheriff? Okay, those are first responders. Thank you. So that was 4.5 years ago, right, Craig? Yep. Subsequent to that, we did another 5% my first year budget. The subsequent to that, we did a 6%, and then last year we did anywhere from 6 to 12%, depending on your job classification. We are going to do we have an extremely tight budget this year. We're not going to raise property taxes. So when the mayor and the commission talk about a cost of living adjustment, we're talking about making sure that for the first time in the history of this county, we give raises or adjustments to our employees to at least compensate for the cost of inflation the previous year. Last year, we had a 2.8% inflation index according to the CPI. And so my proposal to the commission, and the commission hasn't voted on it, it hasn't been debated yet, we're getting there, but would be for a 1.75% lift to the table and a 1.75 step and a 1.25% lift to the table, which means 3% for the vast majority of our employees. So
yeah, we did a 20% because we were that far back.
Yeah.
In our salary study. So, and then as you know, I did a mid-year 4% raise in I think it was January. I think Mayor Carr put a 0.25 on top of that, so they got a 4.25, and then I think we did another 2.5 or somewhere around there. We are trying to take care of all of our employees. So I don't believe in just one section getting a raise. I believe if we're going to give a raise, all the employees get a raise. And I feel strongly about that. I want to make sure each one of our positions are competitive. A lot of times, man, we can't compete with Murfreesboro. They don't have school debt, so they're able to pay their people more. And I think a lot of times we get, people try to compare us to the cities, and it's just we just cannot pay them as much as they do. But I think we kicked the can down the road so many times that we had to do a 20% raise that caused a deficit. And I don't want to be in that situation. I want to take care of all of our employees, and we will have a raise this year. I just, of course, always we don't know exactly how much it is, but the 1.75 step, I think that's something that I can get behind, and I appreciate our employees, and we want to take care of them. We can't be the highest paid in the state, but we definitely can be in the median range, if not more.
Well, let me a public service announcement. When we do comparative analysis on the pay raise, and I'll let you speak in a minute, Randy. I apologize. But I want to make sure the listeners understand context. When we talk about pay raises for our employees, and we do a comparative analysis between sheriff's deputies in Rutherford County and Murfreesboro Patrol or Smyrna Patrol, understand that Rutherford County is only one of 2 counties in the entire state that does a full contribution to their retirement with no match. Yep. So, example, if you are a $50,000 employee, the county is going to take 13.65% of your salary, your gross salary, and we're going to put that in your retirement. Effectively, what we're doing is we're putting $7,000 to $8,000 at $50,000 a year that you're getting in addition to that, and you'll be vested after 5 years. Smyrna doesn't do that. Murfreesboro doesn't do that. They require a 5 or 6% match before you can earn your retirement. We don't require a match. So we've got to make sure when we compare salaries from Rutherford County Sheriff to Murfreesboro Police, we do a true apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, but the county has to pay for that increase in pension.
That's true.
So that's
the county does, not the employees.
Yeah, that's a big increase. And a lot of times people don't understand benefits when we do salary studies and stuff like that. So yeah, I actually agree. And and something that's coming up that people don't understand, our insurance is fixing to go way up.
30%.
Way up.
30%.
And then our retirement's going up almost, I think, 2%, if not more than that.
It's going to 13.65. It'll be over $2 million additionally to the budget over last year.
You're talking about employee medical health insurance?
We're talking about retirement and medical, and that's one of the things, that people don't see too. We get so focused on a jail, and we have to focus on that. But we have a lot of other stuff that we're going to have to deal with. And, you're talking about raises, you're talking about schools, you're talking about insurance. There's a lot of stuff that we had to face, and it's going to take a lot of, in my opinion, a business type approach to this. And that's where I think that I come forth, and that's where I think my strength is. So, yeah, we have a lot of situations we're looking at, and we're going to have to really buckle down and figure this out.
So to clarify for that listener who asked that question, you're saying no separate pay raise specifically for the sheriff's department or other first responders in those lines of work. Instead, this is across the board.
So let me be real clear on the proposal. And it's just a proposal. The commission hasn't reviewed it or debated it or voted on it. Be really clear. But what we're proposing is an adjustment for the inflation that our employees experienced last year So that 2.8%, we want to offset that inflationary cost to their salary by giving them a 3% raise. That raise will be structured in a 1.75% step. We're in the weeds now.
And this is across the board, though. All
this
employees.
is across the board. This is across the board. However, we do on an annual basis do a salary survey of all job classifications. And from time to time, we need to make adjustments, which is what happened 4 years ago when we did a 20%, we did a salary study, and then we did another salary study last year that we did an additional anywhere from 6 to 12 to 14%. So we will make adjustments to particular job classifications if needed and warranted to make sure we're competitive in the marketplace.
So
I didn't mean to steal it from you.
No, it's
Randy.
all right. I just want to simplify this for the average listener here. From what I understand from the sheriff's candidates and many of the deputies, their issue is that they don't have a problem getting somebody to stay 1 to 3 years or stay for 10 to 30 years. It's that little gap. And that's where we're losing, we're losing good people. We're investing up to $100,000 in each deputy. And we're losing that for an increase of $15,000 per year potentially. So to Craig's point about, hey, I think all employees needed a pay raise, well, not every employee walks out the door every morning with a bulletproof vest and carrying a handgun, kisses their wife goodbye and says, hey, I hope I see you at the end of the day. Not everybody is the same. So I feel that we may not be able to do it tomorrow, but we have to have a plan. And that's what they're comparing to. I realize the municipalities in our area, that's who we're losing people to. We're training them, we're equipping them, and then they go on to somewhere else. But we have got to make an effort for all first responders, because I don't want somebody to show up if my wife is having a heart attack that doesn't know how to do CPR. I don't want, if my house is on fire, I don't want somebody showing up with a garden hose. I need people to show up that are equipped, they're trained, and they have a purpose in their spirit to save my life or my spouse's wife or the person I care about. That I am passionate about, and I think that's a simple answer to your question.
I want to defend our first responders. Let me tell you something. It's a phenomenal, self-sacrificing group of people who have that spirit, Randy. And I know what you meant. It kind of came out awkward, but let me tell you something. If the listeners don't know, and to just let the panel know, Rutherford County has some of the quickest response times for EMS and fire and sheriff in the entire state. Some of the quickest. And that is because the last 4 years in particular, the commission and the mayor's office have given a lot of attention to our first responders. We've opened 5 new public health and safety buildings. You talk about quick response times. We increased our response times because of that. Operationally, we now have a fire department with about 115, 120 staffed firefighters. We have an EMS that responds all over the county with tremendous response rates. Can we do better? Absolutely, we can always do better. Can we do a better job taking care of those employees? Absolutely. That's the highest of priorities. But at the same time, don't paint a picture that they're showing up with a garden hose, because nobody's showing up with a garden hose to put out the fire at your house. I can promise you that. It's the state-of-the-art equipment that Craig will tell you we've made a heavy investment in.
And I want to maintain that. I'm not saying we don't have it now. I'm saying I want to maintain that over time.
Since I've been commissioner, we've made some significant investments in public safety. And as you know, I'm chairman of the Rutherford County Opioid Board. And what we have done is we have brought more deputies on. We have given them specialized equipment. We have brought canines on. As mayor, I want to make sure that we equip all of our first responders. I want to make sure we can fund them. And I want to make sure that they deserve the respect that they get or deserve. But I think, in my opinion, when you run a company, you got to have morale. And when one section is getting a raise and the other sections aren't, I think that's detrimental. So I want to make sure that if we give raises, I want to make sure we take care of all of them. Now, we gave a raise, I think, this year, and we did a certain section or a certain department 1 to 3 years. And it was crazy. A lot of the older guys were upset with that, and we went through a lot of headaches on that. And I was for the entire sheriff's department, all of them, to get a raise on that. And of course, it went another direction. But I think that all of our employees are important, and we should be giving them raises just like we give everyone else. That's not taken away from someone carrying a gun or riding or on a fire or in an ambulance. I mean, that's just simply we have to take care of every one of our employees, and they're all important, not just certain sections of them.
Again, this is a political forum with those running for county mayor, and with us in studio today, we've got Craig Harris, a county commissioner, and we also have the incumbent, Joe Carr, and also with us, Randy Allen. This person just simply sent a statement. Don't be confused. You're suggesting across the board pay raises, whereas Allen is suggesting a pay raise specifically for first responders. Then if we move on from there,
well,
if
I
that's
want
what you
to
want
just say, I mean, I believe Joe and Craig both mentioned a raise across the board. I'm talking about in addition to, so not leaving anybody out.
Specifically
right?
Okay. Next one says, is it true this year's budget proposal is being delayed in presentation to the commission, so it will happen after Election Day and include a large tax increase?
Okay, so let me jump on that. So we go through the same process every year. Commissioner Harris is very familiar with that process. He's on budget. He knows the process. It's calendared. Everything's calendared back in January or February is when everything's calendared.
You're already getting some budgets now, aren't you?
Yeah. I was just going to say the first step in that calendaring of events. We're in how the sausage is made now, Scott. Just so you know. But I meet with every one of the departments. They come to me with what they need to run their department. They've already been given the edict. Do not come with any increases in your department because of our insurance and pension problems. Also, I will say this, the cost of fuel is a major expense to the county, and we're paying high gas prices like everybody else, and that we didn't anticipate. Having said that, the calendar of events is the budget process really heats up for the budget committee and the county commission in the month of May. It's always in the month of May, and yes, it'll be after the May 5th primary, but that's calendared by statute every year, and that doesn't get adjusted regardless of whether there's an election that year or not.
Yeah, there's no delay in the budget. The only time there's ever a delay is when we can't agree on establishing the tax rate or the budget. I don't think we've ever had to go through that. And then the comptroller gets involved in that. We have never had to worry about that.
That always will happen in June anyway, not May.
So there's no delay in the budget whatsoever.
Again, if you have any questions, text them to 615-893-1450. This next one, rural communities like Rockville, Las Casas, and Christiana often push back against new development. Would you override local opposition if a major development promised significant economic growth and jobs to those areas if someone were to want to build in those areas?
That is a process question that belongs squarely to the Planning Commission, and that's what the Planning Commission does, is approve or disapprove developments based on, in part, the infrastructure available for that development at the time of the development. As Commissioner Harris referenced a little earlier, what we are now trying to do, and with some success, we've talked to a number of developers who are willing to invest in that infrastructure that is contingent or related or associated with that particular development by proximity. So we're making progress there, but the mayor's office does not have authority to approve or disapprove a development. That goes through the Planning Commission, and then that referral is made directly to the County Commission for approval or disapproval.
Let me just touch on that real quick.
Is there any big proposal that's being planned in the county in some of those areas that I don't know about?
Not that I'm aware of, Again, not that I'm aware of. Again, the process is Planning Commission and Commission for approval or disapproval. And the Planning Commission and the Commission disapprove them all the time. It's not like they approve everything that comes down the pipe.
Craig, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
It's okay, no problem. A lot of people don't understand we need to have a comprehensive plan, and everything is Plan Rutherford. And what a lot of people don't understand is the Planning Commission has already approved Plan Rutherford. And so they're asking for commission. I believe that's coming up about commission approval. But the Planning Commission is over that. We can't stop that. Now, what we can stop is zoning and address with that. But we can't stop planning, any of the Planning Commission on anything. So, Yeah, any development like that would go through planning commission.
And I hope they would look at, before they approve something like that, they would look at existing infrastructure and determine whether or not that's really good for the character of our county.
And again, with us this morning, we have Rutherford County incumbent Mayor Joe Carr. We have Craig Harris and also Randy Allen. I know we're pretty much already out of time, but to wrap it up this morning, instead of each of you giving a long speech about how great you are.
Thank you for that, Scott.
Let's try just one more question here, and we'll end with this one. And this one is one that's been asked, I think, to everybody running for any county office so far. In fact, we've had some people ask this to those in the city as well. But what is your position of the ICE program, the ICE, I guess it's 287G program, that's currently with the sheriff's office, and would you support continuing that or expanding that or ending that?
Well, as the mayor, I will just say what the policy is. The agreement that the county has with ICE is through the sheriff's department, not through the mayor's office. Having said that, I'm a strong believer in the rule of law. We're a nation of laws, we're a state of laws, and we're a county of laws, not of men. What that means is the law, even if it's a bad law, applied equally is better than a good law applied unequally. And so what we need to make sure is that our laws are being enforced. They can be enforced with compassion, but this is, unless my opponents have understand something about it different than I do, the mayor has really no role in the enforcement mechanism by ICE and its relationship with local law enforcement.
And neither does the commission.
That's correct.
We don't have that. That's with the sheriff, and I do agree with ICE, but a lot of times people get so emotional over federal politics, and they feel that what's happening in this state is automatically happening here, and it's not. So one of the things that I believe in is that we have to enforce our laws. And if someone does have a warrant on them, then 287G has them calling ICE, and I'm not against that. So, but also, it's not like it is in Minnesota or California. It's not anything like that.
And I just want to add, each of the constitutional officers in our county work independently. They hopefully work together, but the sheriff's office is, and the sheriff is the constitutional officer over that agreement.
And again, with us this morning for this political forum for those running for county mayor, we have had Joe Carr with us today, and he is the incumbent, and then also Randy Allen with us and Craig Harris. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. We enjoyed it.
Voting starts tomorrow, April 15th.
Sounds good.
Vote.